Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to show you how you can take your note-taking to a whole new level by using a technique called QCE and implementing it in Tana. I'm going to tell you what QCE stands for, and I'm going to show you how you can set up just 3 super tags in Tana to build a system that lets you really deeply understand any topic you want, or at least show you where your gaps are in your understanding. So after watching this video, you'll know a new powerful way of taking notes, and you will have set it up in Tana ready to go for your note-taking. Now, what does QCE stand for? QCE stands for question, claim, and evidence. And it's a way of structuring your thinking in a way that makes it later really easy to synthesize everything that you've learned. I have this concept from Professor Joel Chan at the University of Maryland, and I'm going to link a couple of his papers showing off this process and this idea in detail, and I'm going to link them below. So how does QCE work? Basically, when you start researching a topic, getting interested in a topic, what you want to do is you want to start with questions, and you want to write these questions down. Like, what exactly am I interested in? And then you want to collect possible answers to your questions from the things you're reading, right? And once you have these possible answers, you want to look at them and say, okay, which of these possible answers to one question is supported by the best and most evidence, right? And you want to kind of collect pieces of evidence that confirm or oppose one of these possible answers, and you want to aggregate this together so that at the end, you know, okay, for this question, I had a couple of possible answers, ideas connected to the question, and I have evidence for and against each. And now I can have a really clear picture of what's actually going on, what the literature says about this particular question. Right now, for example, I'm interested in the history of the research university model, right? If you look at universities today, they all basically combine teaching and research in the same institution. And that wasn't always the case, and I'm really interested in why that model came about, how it came about, who invented it, when it was invented and what the cultural background was, and all these sorts of things. So I'm going to show you with this as an example how to implement QCE in Tana. So let's jump right in and write up the questions that I just mentioned. So here we are in Tana, and I'm going to paste in a couple of questions. Who came up with the idea of a research-focused university model, cultural background, and why it was so successful, right? And all of these are questions, so I'm going to go ahead and add a tag question. Now all of these are questions in Tana. Cool, so now we have the questions. What do we want for each of them? We want all possible answers, and we want to keep track of what we want to read to understand each question, to answer it. And then we want to find a way to piece all of the evidence together into a coherent synthesis in the end. And with Tana, it's really easy to collect all of this into one place for every question. But before we get there, I want to think about 2 things that I just said. Possible answers and things to read, right? Possible answers is something that we're going to call a claim in this framework, right? Question, claim, evidence. And the idea is basically to write up anything we or someone in the literature propose as a possible answer to our question, a statement that someone says is true about the world, right? That's a claim. So let's go ahead and actually already make a tag for this in Tana. So here we go, claim, and if I do Command K and then C, I just get create super tag, and now I have a tag for claim. It doesn't have any content yet in the default content, template content, but we have a tag for claim. And things to read is everything that we want to read on a topic, right? And I'm going to call that a source in this context. It could be a book, could be a paper. And to save us some time, I've already set a tag up for sources and one for quotes from these sources as well, right? Source and tag don't fall into the QCE framework necessarily, but they're useful in this context. So let's look at that and the book that I'm already reading on this. So let me pull that in here, History of University in Europe. That's a book that I'm reading on the topic of these questions. Now in this source here, you see I have title, author, year fields, nothing special, but then I have to process for, to integrate for, and integrated for. And these fields are really cool. I'm going to show you in more detail later, but for now what we're going to do is we're going to reference our questions here in the to process for field for this source. All right, so now we're reading this book, right? And in the book, the author says, let me quote here, the Prussian university system, which was inaugurated by Wilhelm von Humboldt in the foundation of the university in Berlin in 1810, was expressly directed against the Napoleonic system, right? So that's a quote. And that you can see here. This is the quote I just read to you with a quote tag. And now what we can do is we can kind of create a claim out of this quote. And to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to edit the claim tag a second, and we're going to create a field source of claim. And this field, we will make a instance field that links to the quote, and we're going to auto initialize to ancestor with this tag. And this is really cool because now we can write something like this: Wilhelm von Humboldt is responsible for introducing the model of the research university. We're going to tag that as a claim, and you see here source of claim is directly linked to the quote above, right? This found the quote, it was indented under, and made that immediately the content of the field source of claim. So whenever we look at a claim that comes from the literature, we'll immediately see where exactly we got that claim from. And I think it also makes sense to record for every claim which question it informs. So let's create a field for that as well. Informs question. And if we click this little star emoji here, that promotes the field to the claim super tag, right? So if I click this, now if I open the configure, this field is now part of the super tag. That's a super convenient new thing that Tana just introduced a couple of days ago. And what we're going to do is copy in who came up with the idea of a research focused university here. And of course, what we can do informs question actually isn't anything but instance of question. Very good. Cool. So now we have a question and we have a claim related to that question. Now let's tackle the evidence. And for evidence, I'm actually going to look into something that Wilhelm von Humboldt wrote himself. And from that, I will extract evidence if I can for the question. So let's jump back into Tana. And so what I'm reading as a primary source now is über die innere und äußere Organisation der höheren wissenschaftlichen Anstalten in Berlin, which is an original thing that Wilhelm von Humboldt wrote in 1809. And this is to process definitely for this question. And here we have another quote, and this quote is in German. He wrote in German, and he basically brings together research and teaching should happen in the same institution. Now, him saying this is evidence for the claim that he popularized, came up with, invented, whatever, the notion of a research-focused university, right? So let's create a tag evidence, and now we have a tag evidence here. And for a piece of evidence that can either support a claim or it can oppose a claim, right? So we're going to supports claim, and we're going to make that part of the super tag, and we'll make a field opposes claim, and we'll also make that part of the super tag. And we're going to configure these to be instances of claim tags. All right, and this now supports our claim that Wilhelm von Humboldt is responsible for introducing the model of the research university. Very good. Now we have a question, we have a claim, and we have a piece of evidence that supports that claim. Of course, what we want is that all the pieces of evidence that we have for or against a certain claim accumulate automatically in that claim, basically, right? We want to have easy access to all that information. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a live search inside the claim super tag that brings up all the things related to that claim. So let's do that now. So here we are in the setup of the claim super tag, and what we're going to do is we're going to add live searches, right? So create search node, and what we're going to do is supporting evidence, and we're going to search here for evidence, right, where the field supports claim is set to the parent. Now, to explain parent again, what happens here is that we're referring to the parent node of where this search supporting evidence search lives. And here, this is just the super tag definition, so we will actually find nothing. But immediately when we tag a node with claim, that node becomes the parent of that search, and the search will find references to that node that live in the supporting claim field. So let's do this again just for practice. Opposing evidence, and we need evidence again, and now the field opposes claim, and again parent. Cool. And now if we close this and look at our initial claim here, Wilhelm von Humboldt is responsible, blah blah. We have supporting evidence, opposing evidence now added, and that quote that we had that we termed a piece of evidence in support of this claim now immediately shows up here. Great, now all the evidence automatically collects for every claim, and now what we want to do is we want to go one level back up and do the same for the questions, naturally. So let's jump in and define the question super tag in more detail. So what I want here is actually I want to have a topic that the question deals with, an overarching topic where I then can collect multiple questions. So let's create a field topic. And then what I want is a section where I collect basically all the related claims, and I want a section where I can then do synthesis. So let's do this. I'm going to do this just as a normal node here, synthesis material and synthesis itself. So what I've done is I've created a live search where I'm looking for claims that have the informs question field set to a reference of the question this search lives in. And I can't use parent here because related claims is not a direct child of the node that is the question, but it is indented under synthesis material. So what I'm going to do instead is type grandparent, right? That is then one example here. Cool, so those are related claims. What we also want though is the different sources that we want. And the way I've set up the source, if you recall, was with 3 different fields. One for to process, to integrate and integrated for. So what we're going to do is create 3 live searches for these different fields, and that will basically give me an information pipeline where I can say, okay, sources move from different stages along a kind of integration line, right? So concretely, let's set this up and then I'll show you. All right, so what I've done is I've created 3 live searches. Sources to process is looking for anything tagged as a source where the field to process is set to the grandparent node of this live search, and the same for sources to integrate and for integrated sources. Now, why do I set up sources with these 3 different fields and not just a simple read unread? Because I might return to the same source 4 different questions, and a global read unread might help me in generally knowing whether I've looked into a certain source before, but it won't help me differentiate, okay, I really need to read this again to answer another question, right? Huge books have the habit of answering multiple questions in their course, right? So I might return to the same source with different questions in mind, and this is what this tracks. So let's look into how this actually works in practice now. So we're looking here at the question, who came up with the idea of a research-focused university? And I've set here the topic to history of research university. And what we can actually do is set this for all of these questions. And what we can do is we type Command K and we set topic, history of research universities. And now all of these are set at once to that particular topic. Now in the synthesis material, we now have a collection of live searches, and related claims here shows up that Wilhelm von Humboldt is responsible for introducing the model of the research university, right? And if I open this up, I see the source of the claim. I know that it informs the question, and I have here the supporting evidence for that particular claim, all in one place here when I'm working on that particular question. And then I have sources to process, and these are the 2 books that I'm currently reading. And if I go to another question here and sources to process, a history of the University of Europe also shows up in that live search. Now what's really cool is that because I have tagged all of these questions and set their topic to history of research universities, if I go to this particular node and look at it, I have here appears as topic in questions, but I can also, of course, create a live search where I look for all the questions where the field topic is set to parent, and boom, I have all the questions related to the history of research universities as well. Again, makes it really easy to collect everything I need in one place. So for example, I can now really dig down and say, okay, who came up with the idea of a research-focused university? Look at the synthesis material, their claims, Wilhelm von Humboldt is responsible. Expand this, okay, where is that claim coming from? And what supporting evidence do I have for this particular claim, right? So I have a really nice slope of information that is tightly connected and lets me find it always again, but also it just collects in one place, and it makes it really easy to synthesize what's going on. And of course, it's really easy to see what I don't know yet, right? So for example, why was the model of a research-focused university invented? Synthesis material, related claims, none. Sources to process, 1. Okay, so I might need to look into that, right? And so with that, you have a really powerful system to dive deep into a topic, collect all the questions and all the possible answers, and know how supported these answers are in the literature, and you have a easy Supertag system to work this out in your own Tana workspace. Now, if you like this video, like, subscribe, and hit that bell so that you get notified of more videos I publish on Tana. And if you like this video, you will also really like this video that I'm going to link over here, which tackles how to set up a Supertag system that helps you do lots of focus work, guides your focus over time, interstitial journaling in Tana. So check out that video and I'll talk to you either in that video or any other you watch next. Bye bye.